Morning.
Good morning, Sean. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to
Happy
everyone.
Monday. Good to see you inside the huddle.
Yes, good to have everyone here. Looks like Lena's working out. That's awesome. Love it.
She always forgets to turn off her camera. You're working out. That's what matters.
That's right.
I just got back. I have no idea. I just got back from the gym. I can't even see myself. I might be a mess. Not that there's any improvement after I'm a mess. So
No.
don't hold your breath. So last week of the month, going into May, going into our spring summer season, thinking right now that we're probably going to see uptick. I know we saw a little bit of a downtick after the rates moved so quickly. I think we're working our way through that, and we're probably going to see some of our normal summer volume. So we should all be prepared for a continuing chaotic market.
Yeah. There's been several articles this weekend that I see filtering through social media and even on the news itself talking about here in San Diego, how even with the increase in interest rates, most experts say there's just not enough houses for sale. Prices are going to continue to go up, and sales will remain strong. So I think that is the case. I mean, you and I were talking about this last week, but I think the only thing that would really pull the parachute on this race car is interest rates starting to inch up towards like that 7, 8, 9%, somewhere in there. I think then people have to really start to think hard about how that impacts them with what's going on with inflation, right? So, like
right.
the cost to buy an $800,000 home 6 months ago was about $900 less per month than it is right now. So, and when I don't know about you, but when you fill up your car, it costs me about $1.20 now. So it's like you feel that. So, yeah.
If rates got that high, we would have larger problems.
Yeah,
systemically, economically, which we may. It's hard to say right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how much damage has been done.
I don't know either.
In the short term, we see a continuing market.
Well, the market closed down 900 and some points. It's down a couple hundred to start the day. It'll be interesting to see what rates, how they come out today. I expect rates will improve today. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, this leads into a topic that we kind of teased out last week.
Right.
On whatever's going on in any market, what it comes down to is a level of leadership. It starts with leadership of ourselves,
right,
and then extends outward, right?
Well, I think so. I think I've started talking about this where I can, and you and I were talking about it on Friday, is I think we have to start setting expectations for a possible shift, or just to set expectations on how things play out in this market. And I don't think right now a lot of those conversations are being had. So if the market does begin to show let's just say the velocity in the market starts to taper down a little bit, and you're not getting an offer until the 13th day as opposed to the third day, your client may feel that you're not performing, or the compass is underperforming. And so talking about or setting expectations about what may or may not be happening as a result of this very dynamic market can really have a really positive impact for you and for your client, so that they don't panic and worry that something is amiss. So that takes leadership. Like people who manage transactions tend to just stay within the guardrails, and they don't really edge out into those edges and really have these more difficult conversations. And you can get away with that in an extreme seller's market or an extreme buyer's market. Either market on the extreme doesn't require you to have a tremendous skill set in conversation. So I thought that's right. I mean, that's what we're talking about today, is how do you do that?
Right. And I think it's true I'm less concerned than you are about a shift. We have a good difference there that's fun to debate.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think the market has changed no matter what. Whether we think the market's going to stay the way it is or shift and slow down, the competition, what's going on in our industry, is 100% without question changing. So either way, we have to find that leadership. That it's something that you said, Steve, that really got me going on this. A great leader does not lead. A great leader inspires. A great leader understands the goals and the aspirations of people around them. And I, of course, because of the way I think, started, well, before that happens to anybody around us, that has to happen with us, right? You have to know your own aspirations and your own goals and be inspired by them. You have to lead yourself.
Correct. Like you have to, how do you show up? How do you see yourself showing up as a leader? Because dictators can be leaders, right? And people who want to bridge the gap between a problem can be seen as a leader. And that's the way I think most people do view leaders in our business. If you kind of, I remember seeing a visual, I shared this with you, that you've got this big ravine and there are two hills to each side, and it's the bridge that gets you over it. I remember seeing a picture of a person basically holding up a plank, or a bridge to move or to help its people, or his or her people move to each side. To me, that's how I see us. That form of leadership, which is basically the problem solver that's not afraid to have hard conversations. Because again, I just feel like leadership really, when you understand what your contribution is or what you're trying to do, if you show up to solve people's problems, then you should be able to have the most authentic and honest conversation a human being can have. If that's what it's about. If it's about you not wanting to lose something because you're afraid you'll lose the listing if you're honest, then that's an ulterior motivation, right? That's not about the best interest of the people you're serving. It's about you serving your own interest. And so you'll pull a punch or you may not address the issue.
Right. And it's interesting. This goes to the, by the way, today, the last Wednesday's workshop will get posted. But one of the things we talked about in there, Steve, was if your focus is on outcomes, you're going to be in for a rough life, a relatively unhappy life, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
The focus is on efforts.
Process.
And a great leader does not come in and say, here's what's going to happen, and by God, it'll happen, or everybody's fired. Although that's often what we think, like the dictator leader.
Right.
A leader's focus is on inspiring people to do their best. It's that great John Wooden, probably the greatest certain basketball coach of all time, who said, I never looked at the scoreboard at the end of the game. That didn't tell me who won or lost. I just looked at my players' faces. If they came off and I saw that they had given their all, we won. And he didn't give a rip what the scoreboard said.
Right.
That's a leader. That's someone you want to be around and you want to go and do more.
Right. So I think like in real estate, like, what does that look like? How do you translate a John Wooden type dedication to inspirational leadership and the care and concern for others above all else, which is, I think he was the poster child for that, is what does that look like in real estate?
That's a great question. I thought about that over the weekend more because you posted that on Friday. And I see it as concentric circles moving out. Like I said, it starts with you. You have to know your own, inspire yourself. But for us, the next one is the clients, the transaction. Do we truly understand their goals and their desires and their aspirations now, a year from now, 5 years from now? If we understand them and they feel heard, they feel that we know what they want, then we will help lead them to the best choices possible. Right. And it won't be managing a transaction. It'll be leading people.
If I've learned anything in my 57 years on this planet, I've learned this about leadership, which I believe is a truth. The truth is that you know, that you know, that you know, that you know. The aha that I had about success is that great leaders and successful people focus on process, not results. Results are just going to be what they're going to be. Great leaders, if you're a real estate professional and you are being, but by the way, what's the human reaction to, or what's the human condition for measuring success? Results, results, results. Wall Street works like that. Our leadership, they measure us by our result. It's always results, results, results. But the people who are truly succeeding at the highest possible level, they are results and action focused. That's how they course correct. They're not obsessing about the fact that they're not achieving a particular goal or the result isn't there. They go back and look at what's my process, what are my actions. So,
well, the truth is you don't control it.
I'm sorry.
Right? You don't control you don't control whether a transaction closes.
Yeah,
you're not in control of that. There's too many moving parts. There's human beings involved, and we understand that. And our clients, if we're leading properly, will understand that as well. That this is not This is not something that we can go in and dictate, nor can they. We have to understand that we're trying to make a dream come true for them.
Right.
And we put in the effort until it happens.
So let's talk about, like, in a real actionable way. Let's say, how would leadership show up, Sean, if I'm on a listing presentation and I've got a client that is saying that if a broker at PXP is willing to take my listing for 4%, and they said that I only have to offer 1.5% to a buyer, and I can get this all done and get top dollar, and they're showing me how their list to sell ratio is 105%. So obviously that works. Their formula works. Let's talk about leadership in that situation. How do you address head on something that you believe, in some cases even know, to not be real? Like what you're seeing there is really not the truth. And how do you have that conversation in such a way as you are contributing to the dialogue in a way that's coming from a place of contribution, not defense?
So the way I would do it, and I would have to say I disagree with one of the premises. If
Okay.
it's true there's people out there that are doing discount brokerage and they're outselling the rest of us, then we all need to change. I don't believe that's true. I've never yet seen it proven out. They're discount for a reason. But beside that, it's always the same. I mean, really, we're objection handling. We accept and hear what they say and then explore, what are they looking for? What does it mean? Well, we want to save money. No, I understand that, absolutely. But why? What is the money going to be used for? It's not these little pieces of green paper. Where are we trying to go? I want them to feel how much I get them. And then eventually we're going to talk about what the way to get there is to have the biggest net. It's going to go back to an objection handler. We need to create the biggest net. So we need someone who understands not only pricing and not only negotiation, but what the difference is. It's easy to I say I'm just going off. This is less leadership and more objection handling, but it's easy to talk about lowering cost, Mr. Client. But that's one of the problems. If your agent sees themselves as a cost, I guarantee you they are.
Yeah.
I don't cost you a dime. I'm an investment, and there's a return on that investment. That goes back more to the leadership of self. Do you understand your value add? Do you understand that you don't cost clients a dime? If you do, we need to talk. We need to rework what you're doing. The commission they pay should be an investment in the fact that you can do a better job than most other people, that you can net them more or make that transaction less painful or stressful, or get it done in the time frame they need. We always talk about money, but that's not even always the primary goal. That's why we have to understand them and find out what's really going on inside of them.
Right. When I ask that question, I'm reminded sometimes of my own, how I would process this. And I just want to start off by saying that I believe that whenever I'm about to address a conflict or something that I believe is inconsistent with what I know, I always ask for permission. So if the seller makes a wild statement about what they believe to be true, I always say, or I will ask, may I have permission to share with you a perspective that I have that may differ from yours? And if so, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being I'm being brutally honest, where I run the risk of you being upset with me, that we're on the opposite ends of this, so much so that it could create conflict, and 1, I'm fibbing to you, how would you like me to be? Because if I've learned anything from a master or the masters, is before they address conflict, they always ask for permission. And they ask for permission to be honest. And what that does is it does 2 things. One is it allows you not to speak to inattention. Because if I just want to run on a sentence after I've heard something that I believe not to be true, there's this inner voice that just automatically puts them on the defensive. Like they're not listening to what you have to say because you're immediately confronting them. And so asking for permission draws them in. And then asking for permission as to say, how honest can I be with you? If being honest from my perspective means that I run the risk, what do you mean by that? Well, if being honest means I run the risk of putting myself in conflict with you. So on a scale from 1 to 10 that happens. 1, on just not even telling you what I believe to be a truth. How do you want me to be? And whatever number they give you, most of the time in my experience, it would be a 10. And if they give me anything less than that, I'd say, well, 8's not a 10, so why does that gap exist? Well, I don't want you to be too hard on me, or whatever they say, and it's usually a chuckle, but they'll almost 99% of the time say be a 10. And then you move forward. Does that make sense?
That makes great sense. And I've heard you talk about that before. I think it's phenomenally important, right, that we ask permission. I would add, though, that after they tell you they're a 10, they want you to be brutally honest. Don't be. They don't actually want to be told what to do, even though they're telling you they do.
No.
We still have to bring it out of them, right, with inspiration, with questions.
Right, because so like, for example, list to sell ratios are one of the trickiest stats in the business, yet they do tell the truth, right? But I see some of our veterans around here. I see Santangelo, I saw Jason Cass. Is it possible for a brokerage to artificially inflate the value of their performance? For example, if I know when I take a listing, I am undervalued in such a way that I'm only going to take it for X amount %. And as a result, I may not have the money to carry that listing forward to properly expose it. If I deflate the number, or I put a wholesale price on it in such a way that I'm manufacturing an over asking price scenario every single time, have I truly performed in securing the best equity pull for the seller?
No. We have a brokerage right now that's famous for doing exactly that. 100,000 below most of the time.
Right. So
Wow.
how many of you, be honest, I mean, this is where I love about how Sky and Emily get involved on the 6 a.m.ers. I have this dialogue where the chat starts to light up. But I would ask how many people by a yes or no feel confident that they can have that conversation in such a way as to change the mindset of their customer. If you feel like you've got that dialogue dialed down, so when a seller says to you, well, you say you're charging more, but I could pay this person less. And by paying less, they're getting 115% list to sell ratio. Are you prepared? How are you prepared to defend the position and expose that for what it is? Because if you let it fly, 100% yes, right? Okay, great. Because if you're not prepared, then we can maybe share some tips. But this is leadership. This is the ability to be unafraid to speak the truth that is about protecting and safeguarding the interests of the people you serve. If that's what you're about, being authentic and being honest comes natural. It has to happen that way. It can happen no other way.
By the way, my initial response to that, just the out of the gate, first thing out of my mouth would be, well, we all know what Mark Twain said. There are liars, there are damn liars, and there are statisticians.
Yeah.
And go into why those numbers don't work.
Yeah.
Give them a universal. Everybody loves Mark Twain. I'm going to give him a universal person.
Yeah. Sean, when I was for a brief moment in time, 2 years of my career, I was director of sales, and some of you that are from Boulder, Colorado, or in that Colorado area may have heard of a company called McStain Neighborhoods, one of the finest builders in the country. But I had the chance to work with them I got on board right before 2006, and we all know what happened. And we went from a 350 person company to 10. And my position was ripped. I learned something very valuable there that I wish to God I could do somehow for here in resale. And that is, what they would do is they would secret shop their on-site salespeople, meaning that they would have someone show up as a fake buyer wearing a camera and mic. And in this case, McStain had this tremendous value premium. For example, they would build a structural basement floor. In Colorado, they have expansive soils and soil shift and walls come crack and all that crap. They built this incredibly well-engineered structural floor system. And for that came at about a $30,000 premium. So if you're comparing home to home, no matter what home you're looking at per square foot, their homes were always going to be more expensive. And they wanted to see how their agents were handling that conflict. So when someone walks in and says, Lennar's selling that same home, or KB or Infinity, why are you that much higher? 9 out of 10 on-site salespeople did not handle that question well at all. And we knew that because we could review the game film and watch how they just completely missed opportunities to establish value. And I bring all that up because if I could only have that, if Robert Santangelo, who I know well, if Robert would let me mic him up such that I could use that coaching film to say, when they said this, here's an opportunity. All we can do now is speculate on what's going on in the market today. We know discounters are putting tremendous pressure on the system, especially as it relates to co-op pay. Commission rate in general is seeing a huge compression. Where on earth is it happening in any industry right now with what's going on in inflation, where the cost of doing everything is going up? Do you have industries cutting their fee? Only here. Only here. And so I wish I could, where I'm going with that is if I could just have that game film, I believe that we could sit down with our agents and really help them. And all we can do here is kind of role play the best case scenarios. And maybe in the time we have left, to demonstrate some leadership, we could take some questions that they're hearing, and you and I can kind of massage that. But that's all. What do you think about that? I mean,
I don't know why you don't film that. Why don't you have some people sit down and handle objection? We could play it right here.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not as. I think what happens though is it's just not as authentic. It's not as real as what you're dealing with. When you stage you can role play this 9 ways till Sunday, and when your colleagues are watching you role play something, that's not real. And they're not paying attention. But if they could go back and I could put them on film, trust me, they are glued. Their eyes are this big. They turn to saucers and they're watching that because I've done it. So, but I think the best thing we could do is do that, right, Sean?
Right, absolutely. The other thing I wanted to bring back to the leadership topic that you started with. This is similar to a lot of things we discussed where there's no, it's not piecemeal. Like I made a joke in that workshop. I said, I have love handles. Hey, trainer, I want to lose my love handles. They'd laugh at me. You cannot spot, lose, weight. You either get fitter all over or you don't. Our business is very much like that. Either if you become a better agent, you'll also be a better person. If you become a better person, you'll become a better agent. They're not independent. We're a holistic being. And the idea of leadership is actually listening to others, understanding their needs, and then inspiring them to get closer to their goals because you were there. That's true of yourself. That's true of your clients. That's true of your sphere. Just being that person means you get more come listen to me calls because your sphere is inspired by you. It's true of your family. It's true of your community. The more you can become that person, the more you will positively impact all those concentric circles around you. And in the end, if we're going to get sappy and do a big picture, that's the point of life, right? In the end, I want to have an impact. In the end, you want to have a little legacy. You want the world to be a better place because you were here.
Yes.
When I was 22, I didn't get that. But as the decades move on, it becomes a higher and higher priority. And that's that. Taking leadership does not mean you have to go run a company, right? Leadership does not mean you have to be in charge of something. It means you have to be a person who is present and hears other people and then helps inspire them to live their life of personal greatness. That's leadership, and it starts inside and just moves out.
Right. And it's not easy. It's not easy because I think leadership, a fundamental tenet of leadership is having is honesty. It's high integrity. It's never lying, right? All of these things contribute to an individual that, if we're being honest, that when we've had these people show up in our lives, I've had one show up just recently, a financial advisor looked at me like, what the hell are you doing with this? And it was wonderful because I knew I was dealing with someone who truly cared about me. They weren't afraid to give me my truth. And I think that if you think of where that's happened, there's not a person on this call that hasn't experienced that. And all I'd like you to do is always, and I think most of you probably are in your own way, but be the best version of that in real estate, and you'll have repeat referral business that will sustain you forever, no matter what the market. I believe that to be a truth. So. And
you'll sleep at night. You'll always know what to do. The way you just put that, thanks, John. The hardest one is with ourselves. We tend to be pretty honest with other people. We tend to have a high level of integrity. It's the truth to ourselves where we have the most difficulty.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of one of my favorite movies is The Big Chill. old. I'm dating myself, but in it, the psychologist guy says they're talking about rationalizations, and he says, "Don't knock rationalizations; they're more important than sex." And the other guy says, "Nothing's more important than sex." And the psychologist says, "You ever gone a week without a rationalization?" We are constantly telling ourselves stories, and we have to be very careful what they are, because that's where leadership starts internally.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think that a lot of times when I'm in coaching situations, depending upon what the struggle might be, internal, external, it starts right there with the mindset, the stinking thinking that can take place. Everything, if you believe that you are going to lose if you don't take or don't cut, then you've got to reprogram yourself to say, well, what's possible here? How would I defend myself against this situation if I were on a listing presentation? Always being prepared when you show up mentally to deal with the basics that come, or the basic objections, I should say, that come, that are inherent in every consultative meeting you have. That's where it starts, and then of course your life experience takes over. And like you and I, a couple gray hairs now, you like I tell my agents, the problem with a guy like me, for you, when I speak with such passion, is there are just things I can't unlearn. I can't unlearn certain truths. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. So this is what you're going to get when you ask me to help you with a tough situation. I'm going to give you the truth as I see it, and it's up to you to do what's best for you. But all I wanted to get out of today was, don't be afraid to have hard conversations with people in a market that may or may not be shifting in the near or future. You're setting expectations now will help you in ways that are immeasurable, right? What does every seller think right now when you sell a house in a day? You've listed it, and you told them, hey, market's great, seller's market, average days on market, 3 or 4 days. You list the house, it sells within 6 hours. What do they think?
You didn't work much.
Well, you didn't work much. You undervalued it, right?
Either way, that's not correct necessarily. But if you're not able to communicate, we're going to have a problem.
Setting expectations. Hey, if we sell this house in 6 hours, here's what that means, right? You might think that somehow we've undervalued the home. And I'm here to tell you that in a situation like that, when a home sells within the day, it simply validates that we're pricing the home just right. And we've got it on in a competitive way such that we're going to get multiple offers. And the best buyer at this moment in time is going to secure the property. That's what that means. That's what, when that happens, this is what it's validating. It doesn't mean that we've undersold the home. It means we've priced it just right. Having that conversation in the listing before you leave with the listing and upload it to the MLS is critical, I think, in a market like this. Because if you don't, then that just goes unresolved. And then they see what happens. As luck would have it, you got a closing taking place in about 25, 35 days, and the house, another neighbor's goes up and it sells for $200,000 more.
Yeah.
Anyway,
for me, this is another conversation, because I argue that we should be on the market for 2 weeks. Even though you get 8 offers in the first day, I would say to my clients, that does not mean we have the best offer. And I don't mean the number can keep going up. There's a limit to what a home will value out at and appraise for. But the best offer has a lot more to it than just price, which is, again, part of you bringing the value of leadership, helping them understand this is not unidimensional. There's a lot of things that are going to go on over the next 30 or 40 days. And I'm here to help you with all of them.
Amen.
Speaking of which, quick teaser, we're going to take this a little further, I think, next week, right? We're talking about what is the talent to skill, or E to P, right? As Gary Taylor called it. Right. So we're going to, next week, go ahead.
No, I was going to say what we're going to focus on is what comes naturally to people, or tend to be the things that we focus on the most, and we should. It's absolutely true. But we will hit a ceiling in our lives, personal and business. And what we want to try to help you next week understand is what that feels like, what it looks like, what does it mean to be entrepreneurial, and then what does it mean to be purposeful? Purposeful meaning that you are working beyond your skill level with intention, with systems, models, focus, accountability. We want to talk about that.
Right. We're born, everyone has talents, and talents will take you so far. How do we move past that, where we're utilizing your talents and developing skills and becoming purposeful? So great topic next week.
Yep.